And while I was reminding you of that wonderful deal, I was being joined by Ian Blackford, the Westminster leader of the Scottish National Party, here in the tent.
Good afternoon, John. It's nice to be with you in this sunny afternoon in London.
It's become a lovely afternoon.
It's a lovely afternoon, isn't it?
You're welcome to our tent, Ian, any given time. What are your thoughts on the new leader of the Tory Party and Prime Minister?
Well, John, I have to say, first and foremost, I think we're in big trouble with the economy. I mean, I think we're facing the biggest crisis that we've had since the early 1970s, and how we react to that is important. I think there's a massive threat from inflation, and if we don't get a grip of that, then we're going to be in big trouble. What that means for individuals, for families, for businesses, and I really hope, above all else, that the new Prime Minister recognises that government has got to press the emergency stop on energy price increases. To a large extent, what's happening now is a consequence of the Ukraine war. It's right that we stand with Ukraine. There's prices to be paid for that, and government has to step up to the plate and realise that we've got to protect consumers, we've got to protect businesses. So I really hope she does that. But I'm worried with what we were hearing from her yesterday. She's still talking about tax cuts. I think spectacularly missing the point. We need to deal with the scale of the crisis that we have at the moment, because frankly, if we don't stop at source the energy price increases coming through, then inflation is going to spiral out of control. There's been the forecast that we've had from many banks of inflation between 18 and 22%. So I hope all the rhetoric we've seen over the course of the last couple of months in the Tory election campaign, that some of that is ditched, because quite frankly this is a very serious moment for each and every one of us.
There's every reason to think that Liz Truss will stick to the pledge to peg national insurance without going up with that extra 6p in the pound interest, and she will do away with the increase in national insurance, which was designed to help fund social care and the NHS. In fact, she wants to see more of that money, the money within general taxation, diverted towards social care from the NHS, and the NHS to draw more money from within general taxation. Now, look, that's a hugely controversial idea.
And it doesn't add up.
And there are those who argue it doesn't add up. But when it comes to your idea of freezing energy prices, there's every indication that's going to happen. So in that sense, you're pushing at an open door. Are you going to be giving the new Prime Minister at least a small round of applause for that?
Well, I think it's important that we all work together collectively and recognise what we're facing. But I would say to her, though, that don't think that she can do this through loans to the generators. There has to be an element of government taking the hit on this as well. Because bear in mind, we're talking about the energy price increases that Ofgem announced the higher cap just 10 days ago, but we'll be facing further increases in the cap as things stand in January and April. So there's an immense price that has to be paid from this, and we can't expect the generators and then ultimately consumers to pick up that entire tab. Government's got to play its part in this, and that means government has got to stand behind the generators.
By which you mean borrow the money to stand behind the generators and back up those loans?
In this case, and we need to think about what degree of influence therefore do we have on the generators to do that. Let's have that debate. But my offer to Liz Truss is that we will work collectively in order to face this challenge. It's an enormous challenge. But the idea that we can't do this without borrowing, and the idea that she can proceed with tax cuts, it's for the birds. This is the wrong time for tax cuts. Nobody wants to see high rates of taxation. Of course not. But we're facing this enormous economic financial crisis, the like that we have not seen since the oil price crisis in the early 1970s.
Right. No, that's then a foretaste of the argument that will be coming very soon on these essential planks of government fiscal policy. We have to talk about the union and Liz Truss's approach to the union, and the idea you'll know being floated now behind the scenes. I don't know with what degree of perfect authority is that the goalposts could be moved for a future potential Scottish independence referendum. So it is suggested that the government would not contemplate a referendum until support for independence had topped the 60% mark and stayed there for a year. And then, were there to be a referendum in those circumstances, your party, your side, the separation argument would need to have more than 50% of the eligible electorate to vote. So the goalpost moving significantly in various directions. You've got a kind of ironic smile on your face here.
The story which I read in the Times newspaper by your colleague John Boothman. I mean, look, let's look at what's happened today. Liz Truss has become the Tory party leader. She got 47% of the electorate that voted for her in the Tory party membership. By this nonsense that's been talked about, she wouldn't be Prime Minister today. There's only one word to describe this. It's gerrymandering. You wouldn't have had Brexit on the basis of what was being talked about yesterday. So this is silly. This is nonsense.
But every election to Parliament is on the basis of the biggest vote wins the contest. In the case of Scottish independence, we're talking about, well, fundamentally changing the makeup of the United Kingdom, an historic shift. That's the case for something more fundamental.
That was the case with Brexit, and by the rules that are being talked about, Brexit wouldn't have happened, because you wouldn't have hit that trigger of 50% of the electorate. This is mad. Everybody understood I didn't like it, and of course Scotland voted to stay within the European Union, but the no side won the Brexit campaign, and the government believed that it had the mandate to enforce that Brexit result. Why would you look at a referendum in Scottish independence any differently? And
but it's within the power. It's within the power of Westminster to change those rules.
Well, this place can make the laws, but the fact is, this is not just about how it looks to people like me and the SNP and those that support independence. This is about how it looks to other people in Scotland as well. And you've got to, in the end, you've got to respect democracy. You've got to respect the right of people in Scotland to express their opinion. Now, you're in the ridiculous situation, if this was to come to pass, that if you're on the electoral register, and that electoral register is there for 12 months, and you've passed away, then automatically you're a no voter. I mean, come on, it's nonsense. They know it's nonsense.
Right.
We know it's nonsense.
Okay. We can look forward to that argument, I guess, before too very long. If look forward to is quite the right choice of words. Ian Blackford, good to see you. Thank you
Good to see you, John,
for joining us on the show this evening.